child molestation. My father took his life just before I was born, so I was looking for that male affirmation. And there were men in my life, a family friend, neighbors, family, that took advantage of that. Before the age of 10, I was a sex addict, and I was out there looking, um, because I thought that was love. And we're talking about trusted adults, like two teachers, one of my best friend's fathers. What is a woman?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So for many, many years, I stated that I felt like a woman, right? But that was absurd because having never actually been a woman, I couldn't possibly know what one feels like. A woman is a human biological female created in the image of the Most High God, equal in spiritual value to man, and designed with distinct characteristics that include being a helpmeet and being suitable for man. A woman is seen as a life giver and a nurturer, while also being an independent being with inherent value. I promised folks a history lesson this morning, and I want to take a look at the history of the shamebow. And I'm now calling it the shamebow because, by definition, it is not a rainbow at all. It is actually what is known as a sigil or a symbol. It says that the rainbow is an arc or a circle that exhibits the colors of the spectrum. What are the colors of the spectrum? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And that's seven, of course. Seven represents in scripture the number of completion. And while anything else is not technically a rainbow, but a symbol or a sigil, God's rainbow is seven colors because that's the definition of the rainbow. What the other flag represents is not a rainbow at all. It's a shamebow. It's a sigil. It's a symbol. So we don't have to worry about it having six colors because actually the original LGBTQ uh, rainbow cult flag had eight colors in it. And I don't know if Mr. Anderson can pop that picture up for me, but in 1978, Gilbert Baker created this symbol for the LGBTQ rainbow cult or movement, right? Using pink, red, orange, yellow, green, turquoise, indigo, and violet. Eight colors. And each color has a very specific meaning, a very specific representation. I also want to make a side note that Gilbert Baker was also very close to Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was an openly homosexual politician, and where else in California? Harvey Milk was an out and proud pederast. He openly and proudly only dated young teenage boys. So if you are judged by the company that you keep, then we can believe that Gilbert Baker was at least a pedo apologist, if not a pedophile himself. And so Harvey Milk commissioned Gilbert Baker to make this symbol, this sigil, right, to represent the homosexual community. So Gilbert Baker went and he formed this quote unquote rainbow flag, the shame bow flag, that to represent the LGBTQ movement. So there on the bottom left is a picture of Gilbert Baker, and then to the right is Harvey Milk. So the hot pink represents sex. Then you have red for life. You have orange for healing, yellow for sun, green for serenity or nature, serenity with nature, I should say, turquoise for magic or art, which is the same thing, indigo for harmony or serenity, and violet for spirit. So you have sex, life, healing, sunlight, nature, magic, harmony, spirit. Now it's amazing how sex always manages to be top of the list, right? Especially when it comes to this cult. For this cult of love, it seems odd that none of the colors actually represented love. So over time, the pink for sex and the turquoise for magic were actually removed. Think about what I just said was removed from the public view. The representation for this cult removed sex and magic. So anyone who out there who might know who Aleister Crowley was, he was an occultist or a Satanist that practiced sex magic. And he believed that sexual energy was and is a sacred force and the most powerful source of human power to control others. So a lot of people say that Aleister Crowley and the mad scientist pedophile Alfred Kinsey were very close associates as well. And I could actually see how that could definitely be factual. So here we go. The lgbTQ TransQueer rainbow cult really ties in with sex magic, since the entirety of their agenda focuses on doing what? Sexualizing everyone, especially children. So if you can't see the big picture here, then you're probably blind, and I don't mean medically or physically. I mean spiritually. Or maybe you're just seriously involved in something that is very dark and deviant, and maybe you need deliverance yourself.
And my body, your body, their bodies are home for the living God. Yes? Full of grace, full of truth. That is why I take my 11-year-old boy to drag shows in the summer with my friend and fellow church leader Kate and her 11-year-old boy. I want him to know that there is no wrong way to have a body, especially if you're a man. That bodies can be celebrated and played with. I want him to know that all bodies can shapeshift and be adorned with makeup and glitter. All bodies.
Sexual energy. Most powerful source of human power to control others. This is the entirety of their agenda. These sigils, what this shame bow is, right, is so influential and has a tremendous impact on every single person that is not just viewing it, but what about the unparents that are taking their children to these celebrations of shame, to these celebrations of perversion, and they're wrapping their children in these flags. When you got mothers and fathers wrapping their children up or unwrapping their children and offering them to this cult of sex, right? Because I mean, honestly, let's just look at, I mean, sex magic. That's what this cult is. The only two things that were removed from the original public view were sex magic. And what is the goal of sex magic? It's to harness sexual energy in order to transcend someone's perceived reality. So their perceived reality is, no, he's a girl. I'm going to take my 11-year-old son and I'm going to offer him to this cult so that he knows it's okay for his body to be played with. Did the shamebo actually set out to accomplish what it was meant to accomplish? And I pretty much say it did, because If it was just a flag, then it really wouldn't hold any power over the masses of people that are parading and marching around and celebrating it and worshiping it. If it was just a flag, it wouldn't have the force to move crowds of people. It couldn't even influence a mood or a perspective or physical violence, because if it was just a flag, it wouldn't even have the power to influence anyone, let alone so many people, setting them off into these sexual frenzies. Even most of them acting against their own moral judgment. This is not just a symbol. This is a powerful, powerful tool of the enemy. Sorry. It's not a rainbow, right? It's a shame bow. And what a lot of people must understand is that Satan's goal is not just to make someone lie and cheat and steal or go have sex with a dog or identify as a homosexual or transgender. His goal is death. His goal is to kill you. That's why this cult has become the cult of suicide and death. Because all of those who are deeply rooted in this movement want to kill themselves, and most of them want to kill others first. I'm not saying that all gays and all the who have accepted this false identity of homosexuality are pedophiles or pedo apologists, but what I am saying, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that they are all victims of the pederast movement. Because what they don't grasp, and what most people don't grasp, as while we have the conservative movement that is embracing homosexuality as if it's innate, as if it is a sexual orientation, which doesn't even exist. What they have to really comprehend is that homosexuality is pornographic by nature. And then especially when it's presented to young developing minds. So it actually destroys vulnerable, impressionable minds while confusing their developing sexuality. Now, I don't know why anyone would want their child to be enveloped or saturated in this damned perversion.
But David, hold on. If I don't affirm them, they're going to commit suicide. Our adversary is trying to destroy God's creation.
And I go, okay, Mom, you see me as boy, I sad, I kill myself.
I overdosed on pills when I was 13. Well, you either get a living trans daughter or a dead son. That's a lie from the pit of hell. It's emotional blackmail is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I was the trans kid who was suicidal. What they don't want you to know is that they go from being suicidal trans kids to suicidal trans adults. Affirmation and wrong sex hormones and puberty blockers and transitioning and encouragement, they only cause more angst, more brokenness, more confusion, more depression. And that's why they think that there's happiness at the end of their path. Because they say, well, if I just do this, I'll be happy. I'll find peace. Well, I was about a week away from getting castrated, which back in my day, that was the first step to having sexual reassignment surgery, as they called it. And I was sitting on the beach with two post-operative transgenders. They both had the operation. I'd known them for years. I always thought they were happy, content. But everyone in my life thought I was happy and content and secure as well. Nobody had a clue that I was miserable inside, that I was depressed, that I was hurting, that I wanted to end my life. Nobody knew that. And we're sitting on this blanket on Coney Island in New York. And one of them looked at me and said, don't do it. They knew what I was there for. They said, don't do it. And he looked at me and he says, all my life I thought if I could just become a woman, I'd find peace and joy and happiness. He said, now I'm legally and medically a woman, and I'm more miserable now than ever in my life. And I think about ending my life every single day.
Mm.
And the other one said, you don't want to be us. Don't do it. But I went back to my hotel and I just remember curling up into a ball and just bawling my eyes out, thinking, if that's not going to help me find this, what's my next step? If they're telling me don't take the next step because it's not going to bring you peace, then where's my next step?
People think I'm being harsh and I'm being mean, but if you, at this point, we live in the information age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, the truth is out there in so many different platforms and so many different ways that if you continue to send your babies to the government schools, because they're not public schools, they're paid for by the public, but they are government institutions. If you continue to send your babies there, then you are an unparent. You are sacrificing your child instead of making sacrifices for your child. There's no excuse at this point. There's too many resources. Wrong sex hormones
Yes.
do not just destroy the physical body. They destroy the mental capacity of anyone that takes them. I was on wrong sex hormones for 20 years. All right. And so I started at 14. I tried to take my life at 13. So I was the suicidal trans kid, the one that's always tossed into all these debates and arguments. Well, if you don't do that, well, guess what? I was him. So, and it only gets worse with transitioning, with gender affirming care. It only gets worse. So wrong sex hormones at 14. By 15, I was a basket case. I was walking down the street, laughing 1 minute, crying the next, and angry the next, wanting to hurt somebody. I have physically and verbally attacked people just for looking at me a certain way. Wrong sex hormones are psychotropic destroyers. This is not just a mental health thing, right? This is a demonic issue. I mean, this is both. People who are demonically oppressed have mental health issues. Gay marriage was never about equality. It was never about equality. It wasn't about trying to make anybody equal to anybody else or about having the same rights. It was always about extra special rights, because the truth, the fact, is that sexual orientation doesn't exist. And so what they're doing now is they're proving it, because in the beginning, when they fought for legalized marriage for homosexuality, for homosexuals, then it was all about just undermining and destroying the fundamental values and moral principles which guide and govern our society. But it was also a small part of a large diabolical plan to push that insidious, well-organized agenda, because this movement has become the largest, darkest, most deadliest movement ever to come to the face of this earth. Look at the fact that, like you just said, it has absorbed all of the smaller movements. It has absorbed the civil rights movement. It has absorbed the feminist movement. It's absorbed the abortion movement. It has absorbed all of the causes. And it has just now grown and grown. And now it is the largest, darkest, deadliest force we've ever been up against. It is insidious, it is well organized, and there is an agenda that is designed to erode morality and to weaken our resolve until we are not able to resist anymore. And that's why we have to resist this perversion. We have to resist all perversion. We can't just say it's a trans versus homosexual thing. Trans is a mental issue. Homosexuality is a sexual orientation. That's a lie from the pit of hell. This was all direct, deliberate attacks on God's good, perfect creation and on Christianity. And so the whole agenda is only fueled by malice and spite. That's it.
Yeah.
This is a perversion. This is a perversion that has seeped into the bones of the majority of people, even the followers of the Christ. And it's one of the most hateful, most dangerously perverted movements ever. And it must be stopped. It must be stopped by any means necessary. This movement must be outlawed. This movement must be banned. And it's not just this movement, but what we have is we have a political movement that is embracing homosexuality. We're getting ready to bring back Maine Resistance here in Maine.
Neat. Good.
Yeah. And we're going to go after sexual orientation on the Maine Human Rights Act, because sexual orientation does not exist. We are all designed in one design. Humans have given God's design a label, heterosexual, right? They've given his design a label. The same way in that perverted cult, they give everybody labels, and now they have over 150 labels, and they're calling them all genders and orientations. So, I mean, it's ridiculously, nonsensically crazy, but that's because it's diabolical. And that's what diabolical seems like to people who have any kind of sense at all. It seems crazy. It's like, how could you possibly fathom that it's okay for boys to go and beat up on girls in sports? Well, you can't. It's not a women's rights issue. It's a mental health going undiagnosed and untreated issue. That's what it is. It's a demonic oppression and possession issue going undelivered, because we, the church, have gotten to a place of unbelief. We have relinquished our authority and our power to lay hands on people, to heal the sick, to cast out demons. We the church have laid it down and given up. And I tell people all the time, I say, listen, you cannot be so selfish that you're so worried about your relationship, whether it be with your child, with a friend, with a family member, whoever, that you are not willing to tell that individual the truth, because the truth hurts those that don't live in the truth. So if you're not willing to tell that individual the truth and love them to life, right, with the truth, instead of loving them to death with your silence or your encouragement or your celebrating the darkness with them, then you don't really care about that person. You really don't have it in you to care about that person.
Boom, 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 David. Your testimony is powerful, so you need to keep saying and getting out there and telling your story. Because make people aware of this dangers to our children, with this grooming and drag queens and garbage. Sorry, it's garbage, but you're powerful. Don't forget that much. God is standing behind you, and you may and will save a life. You're a blessing and inspiration to many, including me. Love you, brother.
Love you too, Betty. Thank you. What it comes down to is when you're talking about where the teachers go, in 2015, I had a teacher reach out to me and tell me that, 2018, she reached out to me and said from 2015 to 2018, her student population in their high school went from 4% identifying as the rainbow cult
Mhm.
to 56%.
Yep. Yep.
So
They're
we
good.
can't, and you know, I'm not one for polls and statistics because they're all biased, but biased or not, that's huge. That's like between 2019 and 2023, we had a 6,000% increase in young women identifying as trans. So it's like these things, they may be a little off, but they're so huge that they're that impactful. And we have to start looking at it like, what is not what's the problem? We know what the problem is what's the solution? So are we willing to love people enough to love them to life with the truth? Or are we going to love them to death with our silence or with our agreement or appeasing them?